Welcome to my secret channel, Emerald, where I ramble about whatever I feel like talking about in the laziest, most boring format possible. It's not an analysis, just my experience. That's my intro. That's what I'm going with. You know, I had the epiphany, like, yesterday that this is essentially just a podcast because it's basically just an image with me talking. And I don't know why I never thought about it that way. It's a pretty lonely podcast, just me. But whatever. Fire Emblem. Fire Emblem is my favorite Nintendo series. I'm going to talk about how I got into the series and why I love it so much. So, I did indeed grow up playing Super Smash Bros. Melee as a little kid. That was one of my big childhood games, and I knew about Marth and Roy. I didn't play a Fire Emblem game till much later. Okay, I guess spoiler. I didn't play a Fire Emblem game till like 2016 or 17, or maybe even 2018. I don't know when it was actually that I played a Fire Emblem game. But before we get there, I guess my introduction, just about everyone's introduction to Fire Emblem, at least if you're my age, was Marth and Roy in Smash Melee. That's the pretty generic response. That's how a lot of people got into this series. So, funny thing, when I was a kid, I was geographically a little stupid. So, I thought that Marth and Roy were Spanish because Marth in his taunt says, "Mina, mi te tu kule." And I knew it wasn't English. As a little kid, I knew it wasn't English. But the real reason I thought that he was Spanish, partially because of the way he looked in his clothing, but mostly because the song Together We Ride that plays on whatever the Fire Emblem map on Melee is, it sounds kind of, it has Spanish vibes, at least in my head it kind of did. I think it's that chord progression. I love Together We Ride. It's probably one of my favorites, if not my favorite Fire Emblem song. But so I guess that's how I found out, or that was my first introduction to anything Fire Emblem related at all. And I think at that point, you know, I think it would just be like a year or two later, when a Fire Emblem game would actually come over to the West, and that was Fire Emblem 7. I did not play it. I never had a Fire Emblem game. If I did, I had no memory of it. So let's skip to when I was in about later mid-high school, maybe. Probably later high school, and I was rediscovering Nintendo. I think it was really late high school. I kind of didn't play much Nintendo stuff during middle school and early high school. I was definitely getting back into it, and I don't know what happened. I don't know exactly what happened, but I got really into Smash. I think it's probably because my friend, who's like my second subscriber on this channel, would always want to play Melee, and then I kept getting absolutely bodied. And so I just wanted to get better at the game, and I just started getting really into Smash. And then I got interested in Smash 4 for the Wii U. I didn't have a Wii U, and I actually got one, I think for like Christmas. I think it was actually the year the Switch came out. I want to say it was 2017. I'm not entirely sure. It was either 17 or 18. I got the Wii U pretty late. Right, but I think it was pretty cheap, right? So I got Smash 4, and I always just liked the Fire Emblem characters. I just thought they looked cool. You know, I'm a absolute weeb, so of course I did, right? But specifically, I really liked Lucina for obvious reasons, because she's cute, right? So I already had an inclination towards the Fire Emblem characters, right? And at this time, since I was kind of in a way rediscovering Nintendo, I wanted to like broaden my horizons and try playing Nintendo series I never played before. So I got Fire Emblem Awakening and I got Metroid Prime. And I love both of those games, but Fire Emblem Awakening connected with me on another level. I think the reason I got Awakening was probably because, you know, Lucina was in that game, and I remember looking up stuff like best Fire Emblem games or something like that. I think I came across like a ranked list or whatever, and whoever wrote the article said Awakening was the best game in the series. Later to find out that apparently half the community doesn't like any of the games starting at Awakening or after, and then the other half only cares about the Awakening and after that, right? So I got that. It was accessible. I already had a 3DS, so I got Fire Emblem Awakening. I didn't play it for a while. And the reason that hurts me is because I was in college. I was in college at this time, and there was this girl that sat behind me in my business calculus class. She was probably the most bubbly, outgoing girl you could possibly imagine. And she asked me, I guess she looked at me and thought that I probably liked similar stuff to her. And she asked me, no, what did she say? She said something about Fire Emblem. I can't remember what she said, but she brought up Fire Emblem. I don't know why. I don't even remember what the context was. And so I was like, oh, Fire Emblem. Yeah, I bought Awakening, and I haven't even played it yet. I bought it like months ago, and I kept meaning to play that. And I wish I had played it this time, because I have never met another human being in real life that has actually played a Fire Emblem game or actually liked Fire Emblem. So it hurts me deep inside that I couldn't talk to someone about Fire Emblem that actually likes the series. That hurts. But anyways, so I ended up playing Awakening not too long after that, really expecting nothing. I expected to not like the game. I don't know why. For some reason, whenever I start playing something that's highly praised, I have this really obnoxious hipster mentality towards it. Usually at the very beginning, I'm like, I'm probably not gonna like this. And so many times I've said that, I was so wrong. I said that when I started playing Nier Automata, which is like my 5th favorite game of all time. I said something really pretentious while I was playing it at the very beginning. I said something like, well, my opinion of this game, my first impression of this game is negative so far. It was something pretentious and stupid like that. That's one of my favorite games of all time. And so is Awakening. So let's get into Awakening. So the very second I started actually playing like the gameplay segments of Fire Emblem Awakening, it actually clicked with me instantly. I don't think a video game's gameplay has ever clicked with me as fast as Fire Emblem did. I'm not exactly sure why. I do really like turn-based and strategy games. Maybe that's why. The combat was just so like up my alley that I think I was just caught off guard or something, right? And so I fell in love. Like, just I played it for however long I played it, and then I remember I went to sleep that night. And if you watch the Danganronpa video, you may know what I'm about to say. But I had dreams again. Whenever I get really invested into a game, I dream about it that night, and I have like anxiety in my sleep. And in a way, that's a bad thing because it's, I can't sleep well, but in a way it's also a good thing because that means I'm really enjoying what I'm playing. It's kind of a double-edged sword, right? So that happened like multiple nights in a row, right? So as I was playing this game, I think I played on the most normie setting possible. I played on like casual, easy. I don't know why I did that. I never do that anymore. That was probably the last time I ever started off playing a game on the easiest difficulty. My philosophy with choosing a difficulty is I'll pretty much always go with normal. If there's only 2 difficulty options and it's easy and normal, I'll pick normal. If there are only 2 difficulty options and it says normal and hard, I'll pick normal every time. That's been my philosophy for the most part. But I mean, with Fire Emblem now at this point, I just always play on hard because it's more fun that way. But yeah, as I went through Awakening, I just loved everything about it. I loved the aesthetic. I loved the gameplay. I liked the whole recruiting system. I was enjoying the story for the most part. I wasn't like blown away by the story, but it's still like a pretty fun story. And the chapter everyone freaks out over, chapter 9 from Awakening, it's a really good chapter. It makes me sad that Nintendo doesn't do a lot of serious storytelling like that in any of their other games. Maybe you could argue Zelda, but I don't even know if I would agree with that. But something about the fact that Fire Emblem, I think I was caught off guard because it is a Nintendo series. It's so unlike all of the other Nintendo series, and that's what I love so much about it. It's probably because it's not developed by Nintendo. It's developed by Intelligent Systems, who I believe is owned by Nintendo. Intelligent Systems made the Paper Mario games, and I need to make a video about Paper Mario Thousand Year Door because that was my favorite game for the longest time. I have to do that one day. But anyways, yeah, like, a game has almost never clicked with me that fast. Sometimes it'll take me a good bit of time before I actually start getting really invested into a game. It took me 20 hours to get invested into Persona 4, which is also one of my favorite games. It took me time to get invested in Tales of Vesperia, right? A lot of times it takes me a while, but Fire Emblem clicked with me within like the first hour, which for me is pretty rare. So I played Fire Emblem Awakening. I actually played as, I remember I played as a girl because I didn't know that there was like a romancing system in that game. And so I played as a girl because I usually just play as a girl so I have something nice to look at, right? But then I married Crom. I married Crom and I was like, wait, what would happen if I was a boy? Could I just choose who I was married to? And that ended up being the case. And so now I play Fire Emblem mostly as a guy now. If a game allows me a romancing option, I have to play as a guy. If they don't allow me one, then I just play as a girl. Regardless, I love the cast. I loved Lucina. She's one of my favorite characters ever. I love Crom. He's probably like top 3 male characters in all of Fire Emblem for me. I love Tharja. And I know so many. I don't know why Tharja is so controversial. I've seen a lot of people hate her. I think a lot of people, my guess is a lot of people don't like her because I guess she's like sexualized, and a lot of people like her for the sole reason that she is sexualized because she's stupid hot. Which I remember I was watching a stream from Shady Cicada, who's like one of my favorite YouTubers. I used to watch his streams a lot more. I've slowed down a bit though. And I remember he had just played Awakening, and he asked everyone what they thought about Tharja. And everyone in the chat said they hated Tharja. I don't think one person said they liked Tharja. And this was like a stream with like probably 50 people in it, something like that. And I was like, what is wrong with these people? I thought everyone liked Tharja. So no, Tharja ended up being controversial, but I don't care. I don't care. She's my waifu from that game. Tharja's my waifu. She might just be my top 3 Fire Emblem waifu. That's what I'll say. Top 3 Fire Emblem waifu. There's so many good female characters in all Fire Emblem. Probably because there's just so many characters in Fire Emblem, period. But you know what? I think that's a good thing. More the merrier. Frankly, I think we need even more. You know what else we need? We need more Fire Emblem characters in Smash. Okay, that's kind of a joke. Anyways, so yeah, I played Awakening. I really loved it. And after I played it, I was just like, dude, I gotta play more Fire Emblem. Because I knew there were a ton of games. There's like, what, 15 games or something like that? So that's how my journey to play every Fire Emblem game that exists started. With Awakening. And I know, what do they call them? Awakening babies or whatever? That's, F off with that. It's a good game. It's a good game. I love Awakening to death. And Awakening quite literally saved Fire Emblem. Imagine if that. If Awakening never came out, I probably never even would have played Fire Emblem. That terrifies me. That scares me a lot. But anyways, so yeah, I went on my quest to play every Fire Emblem game. And I guess to tell you where I am right now, let me go ahead and tell you every game. And then I'll talk a bit about each game. But I played Awakening. Then I played Shadow Dragon. Then I played Sacred Stones. Then I played Fates. Specifically, I played the Birthright path. I have yet to play Conquest. And I haven't done the other route either. And then I played Fire Emblem 7. And then I played Fire Emblem Warriors. I actually think I played that one earlier. And then I played Three Houses. And then I played Path of Radiance. I think I got all of them. The only English releases I have not played are Radiant Dawn and Echoes, and I actually own both of those. I just haven't played them yet. And I've never played Thracia, I've never played Binding Blade, and I've never played Genealogy: The Holy War. And I pre-ordered Fire Emblem 1, which just got announced digitally on the Nintendo Switch like a few weeks ago. Which I want to say I'm excited for, but at the same time, the art from the first game is so ugly that I'm basically just playing it because I'm a massive Fire Emblem fan. Ignoring that. Wow, that's actually the person I just talked about, Shay Cicada. What do you know? He's streaming right now. Okay, so Shadow Dragon. I love Shadow Dragon. Shadow Dragon is my 3rd favorite game in the series. And a lot of people don't like Shadow Dragon, I think, which is kind of sad. I think it's because of the support conversations, like they don't exist or something like, I don't know, something. I think they don't have like traditional like support conversations. But what I love about Shadow Dragon is mostly like the gameplay and the maps. I don't know if anyone else would agree with this, but I actually think Shadow Dragon has my favorite maps in the game. I enjoyed a good bit of the cast. I really liked the girl who no one can agree how to say her name. Sida, Kaida. I called her Kaida for the longest time because I was comparing her name to Kaede from Danganronpa V3 because it was spelled fairly similarly, just with a C at the beginning and an A at the end, right? But I liked her a lot. I enjoyed Marth. I like seeing the evolution of Marth and his design throughout all of Fire Emblem. Every different portrayal of Marth shows him a little bit differently. I also should mention I played Fire Emblem Heroes like every day for a year straight. I was addicted to that, and I'm so glad that I quit my addiction of that game because I spent more money than I should have on it. Moving on. So yeah, Shadow Dragon, I enjoyed Shadow Dragon, and I stand by the opinion that Shadow Dragon has the best final boss fight or final map in the entire series. I think the only one that comes close to me is probably the final map of the Golden Deer route and Three Houses. I cannot wait to get to talking about Three Houses because that's going to be fun. Shadow Dragon, yeah. I love that game. I think it's kind of underrated. It's my third favorite Fire Emblem game. I'd say that. And then I played Sacred Stones. Sacred Stones might have my favorite cast. I think it's technically a bit smaller of a cast, but I love a lot of the characters from that game. I love Lute, La Rochelle, Erica, Ephraim. I love Innis. I like, is her name Marissa, the mercenary girl? I like Mir, or Mur, however you say her name. I like the dancer girl. I like Tana a lot. I like Joshua. I love the cast. It is a bit of a smaller cast, but I love the cast so much from Sacred Stones. I will say Sacred Stones was extremely easy. I think that was probably the easiest Fire Emblem game I've played. Where would I rank Sacred Stones? I guess I'm turning this into a ranking. I'd probably rank Sacred Stones as my... oh gosh, my second or third least favorite. It sounds weird to say that. Just so you know, I love every Fire Emblem game. There are no bad Fire Emblem games, in my opinion. I enjoyed them all. I don't know what my problem was with it. I don't know why it would rank lower. I think it's just because I like all the other games just a little bit more. All the gaps are like pretty small between how much I like each game. But yeah, Sacred Stones, I love the cast, and I think it's very fun. Moving on to Fates. So Fates is notoriously hated on, which is also kind of strange because before Three Houses, it was the best-selling game in the series. And I think a lot of people liked Fates, but weren't really Fire Emblem fans, so they like just played Fates, and they're not there to defend the game from the community of Fire Emblem, like longtime Fire Emblem fans that absolutely cannot stand Fates. I liked Fates. I'll be real. I enjoyed Fates a lot. I get it. The story is like not particularly amazing, and the villain is not particularly a good villain. I get it, but I still had fun inherently. I never really thought Fire Emblem had all that crazy great of a story in like almost any of the games, which is why I love Three Houses so much, because it actually took the story a lot more seriously. But Fates, I didn't really care. I just had fun. I liked the cast. I liked the character designs a lot. I enjoyed the gameplay. I thought the maps were appealing to the eyes. There was a bit of BS in that game for sure, but I had fun. What can I say? And I think before Three Houses came out, that was the most time I had put in a Fire Emblem game. But yeah, I actually kind of defend Fates. I'm not saying Fates is like my favorite in the series or anything, but I'm saying I don't think it's as bad as people would have you believe. Most of the people that hate it are definitely like longtime Fire Emblem fans. Yeah, I think that game's overhated personally. So then we're going to move on to my what's going to make me lose a lot of respect from any longtime Fire Emblem fan. Fire Emblem 7. I hate to say it, but it is easily my least favorite Fire Emblem game. I'm not saying it's the worst, because I don't think from a purely technical standpoint, it's definitely not the worst. In fact, Fire Emblem 7 has probably like one of the best written stories in the series. I would say of the games I've played, the three best stories would be, not in any order, would be Three Houses, FE7, and Path of Radiance. I have not played Radiant Dawn, keep that in mind. Nor have I played Echoes, just from what I've played. So I think purely from a technical standpoint, FE7 is a really good game. I think my problem with it was I didn't grow up with it, and I played the newer games later. And the newer games all introduced like mechanics and a lot of like what's the term? Quality of life changes. There were so many quality of life changes and mechanics that were introduced later in Fire Emblem that were not really in FE7. So for example, in FE7, if there's a chest on the map and an enemy opens it and you kill that enemy, you are not able to get the treasure that they took. But I think in all the other games, I think you can. I think if you kill the enemy that opens the chest, you can take the item that they took from them. And so there were just like a bunch of like minor things like that. I think my biggest problem with FE7 was probably the maps. I feel like too many of the maps in FE7 were just like grass plains. And that's what I like about the later games more, is because it feels like there's more variety to the maps, and that's something I care a lot about. Also, I'm be real, I didn't care about the cast that much. I like the cast. Fire Emblem always has at least a handful of characters I really like. I think my favorite character from FE7 was probably Nino. I liked Nino a lot. Everyone obsesses over Lyn. I like Lyn, but I can't help but feel like those are people that grew up with FE7, and Lyn was like their childhood waifu. I didn't have that experience. I'm not saying FE7's only your favorite game if you grew up with it, because I don't really think that's the case. I do know of some people that started with the newer games and ended up liking the older games even more. But for me personally, the cast doesn't connect. It doesn't resonate as much with me. I like, what's his name, Jafar? I think that's his name. I like him. He's cool. Okay, I'll be real. I don't see the love for Hector. I guess I don't understand. Someone should explain to me why they love Hector so much. Because, I mean, I liked him, but I wouldn't put him anywhere near my favorite like male characters from the series. I actually think I liked Eliwood a bit more. Yeah, not to rag on FE7 too hard, though. Like I said, FE7 is a good game. It's a very good game. I liked it. I would just say it's definitely my least favorite Fire Emblem game that I've played. If you care about like a score, I give like a 7 out of 10. No pun intended. But it was still really good. Oh, Ninian. I like Ninian a lot too. Moving on to what did I play next? So, Three Houses. Three Houses, I have 100% of Three Houses. I will say this is probably the most normie Fire Emblem opinion ever, but Three Houses is my favorite Fire Emblem game. I didn't want to admit it for the longest time. I wanted Awakening to be my favorite just because that first playthrough of Awakening was like one of the best playthroughs I've ever had. Not from a technical perspective, but just in terms of how much I enjoyed it. But after I 100%ed Three Houses, I was just like, yeah, there's no way this game isn't my favorite in the series. Everything about that, the only complaint that I have about Three Houses are the visuals. And I couldn't even care less about visuals in video games. If I cared about visuals in video games, I would not be playing the games that I play. Yeah, right? But Three Houses, I loved the cast. I love the gameplay, of course, even though I will say Three Houses is not nearly as hard as like some of the other games. Awakening was like way harder. I went back and tried playing Awakening, and I was like, I had to restart so many times. If my favorite character dies, I restart. That's what I do. I will say that's the great thing about having the rewind feature in Three Houses. I don't have to do that. That would have been frustrating. But in Three Houses, I love the cast. I love the music. I love the story. I love the gameplay, and there's just so much content. I had like 250 hours in the game or something. After I just finished my 100% playthrough of that like a month or two, like probably 2 months ago. I had like 250 hours in that. I did all the DLC. I did everything in that game, every paralog, every single thing there is to do in that game. I did it. and I feel so satisfied from it. And you know who I married? I married Flane. That's who I married. Flane is probably or potentially my favorite Fire Emblem character. There are a few characters that bring me as much joy as she does. She is just, she cracks me up, okay? She puts a smile on my face. Fire Emblem is so full of just cute and funny characters, cool characters that just make me smile. Fire Emblem just makes me smile. A lot of times I don't think about the overly technical reasoning behind liking a character. The great thing about Fire Emblem is every game has like 40 or 50 characters, and at least one of them will always resonate with you so hard. And it can be for the most pointless reasoning. It can be just because they say something funny, or they have this one random quirk that you just really like. I don't know why it is the way it is, but I'm happy that it is the way it is. The most unfortunate thing is that Fire Emblem gets hated on so much by other people just because they play Smash and they don't like how many Fire Emblem characters are in Smash, which is pretty bogus considering what it has the third most amount of characters in the series. And the reasoning for it, if you want to know why Fire Emblem has so many characters in Smash, it's clearly because Fire Emblem has so many characters, period. The reason we don't get more Zelda characters is because there aren't very many reoccurring important characters in Zelda. But Fire Emblem, every Fire Emblem game essentially has at least like 3 really important characters. So when you have like 15 games, you have so many characters that you could technically use, that you could technically put in Smash, right? That's why there are also a bunch of Pokemon, because there's a bunch of Pokemon that exist. There's like nearly 1,000 Pokemon that exist. That's why there's so many. That and its popularity, of course. I know most people just get mad because Fire Emblem is not that popular, yet it gets more characters in the game than their favorite series, which is understandable, but whining about it's a waste of time. Anyways, back to Three Houses. I love that game. What else am I going to say about it? Okay, actually, I could probably say more about it. So I started out with the Black Eagles route, and day one, I played that game 13 hours straight, which I hadn't done in a while at that time. If I can actually sit and play a game for 13 hours straight, that's a pretty good sign that I like that game a lot. And the Black Eagle route sure is an interesting one, because if you go full on by the way, spoilers, if you go all the way with Edelgard, it's really short, and it's kind of unsatisfying at the end. And I think the best thing I did was save the Golden Deer route for last, because the Golden Deer route has the most satisfying lore answers and explanations, right? I think that was good of me to save that one for last. I think Blue Lions would have been a good one to do last too, either one. The worst one you could do last would probably just be the full-on Edelgard route. But what Three Houses does amazing, and I could make a whole video about Three Houses, which I might do, but I guess to be a little quick about it, what I like about Three Houses is how it doesn't really shove a specific opinion down your throat. You get to kind of decide for yourself who you actually think is right and who's wrong. Now, depending on the route that you're playing, you could definitely view others as being better or worse, or being in the right or the wrong. But once you get you won't really know until you get the full perspective. I think anyone that didn't start with the Black Eagles route probably vehemently, did I use that word correctly? Vehemently, I'm gonna use it anyways, disagreed with Edelgard. And I feel like a lot of people that played the Edelgard route first probably thought she wasn't really that bad. I've heard the joke that, oh, Edelgard did nothing wrong, which is definitely not true. That's definitely not true. I definitely don't agree with Edelgard 100%, but I also don't disagree with her 100%. I think she had decent intentions, a pretty bad, bigoted, she had a pretty bigoted methodology and mentality, but that's besides the point. Anyways, I love the writing in Three Houses. I love it so much. I think I might want to make a full video on just Three Houses. Three Houses is like my 6th favorite game of all time, which I also need to make a top whatever list, my favorite games. I'm gonna do a bunch of stuff on this channel. I'm having fun with this channel. I love this channel. I just get to talk about whatever, right? But yeah, I think I won't talk too much more about Three Houses because I might just make a full-on video about it. But yeah, moving on. Real quick, let's talk about Fire Emblem Warriors. If you count Fire Emblem Warriors as a Fire Emblem game, I would say it's my least favorite in the series. I liked it, but I think by the end of it, it was just kind of repetitive and not super fun. I probably could have lived without it, but it was an enjoyable enough of experience. I think my biggest complaint with Warriors is the art. It's unfortunate because I love Fire Emblem artwork so much, and Warriors just didn't have that. I didn't like the art style for Warriors at all. And I'm talking more about like the portraits, right? Not necessarily like the actual, what would you, like the actual like 3D models or whatever. That was like fine, I guess. But moving on, so let's talk about Path of Radiance. Path of Radiance, I always want to describe as the game where you try to defeat the CEO of racism, which is a black guy named Black Knight. But no, Path of Radiance. So I actually got that game on GameCube, which is like my favorite console ever, probably because I grew up with it. But that was a hefty price. They should really like port that game or something to the Switch, right? But I enjoyed Path of Radiance a lot. I think Path of Radiance had definitely one of the most interesting stories. And a lot of fun units, a lot of fun characters, and it was a great game. I would love to talk more about it, but I feel like I really need to play Radiant Dawn to see the actual conclusion. I will say, unfortunately, I do know who the Black Knight is. That was spoiled for me by someone. You know, actually, I'll say, Lucky Crit, you spoiled me. Lucky Crit spoiled me by attempting to not spoil, right? So I was watching him play like Fire Emblem Heroes or whatever, and he said something along the lines of, this character in Heroes is wearing the Black Knight armor, which pretty much spoils Radiant Dawn. And he said his name, the character's name, so like now I know who it is. I wouldn't have even thought about that if he didn't say that, because I don't remember every single Fire Emblem Heroes character's armor, unless it's the special event ones, right? But even then. But yeah, so Radiant Dawn's kind of been spoiled for me, but I guess it's not really a big issue. That's like a over 10-year-old game now. It's not really a big deal. But Path of Radiance. Man, I really enjoyed a lot of the characters in that. I really like the Lagoos. I really liked that. I liked what they did with that a lot. It made for a lot more interesting like combat by incorporating the Lagoos. It makes the game stand out in a different way. I'd say some of my favorite characters were probably Soren, Mia. I liked Ike a lot. I liked Soniki, even though she didn't do too much. I liked Mist. I liked Raisin. Raisin. In terms of the gameplay, there's always one map. There's two maps that stood out in my mind. The first one is the map where it's literally like 4 battles in a row, and you can like call for reinforcements. That was a lot of fun. And the other one was this map that I had to restart on like 4 times. I spent a long time on it because I kept losing characters. Yes, I know I shouldn't just reset because permadeath technically enhances the experience. I don't always reset, but for Path of Radiance I did because I was doing so good in that playthrough. But it was when Pointy Nose Dude, whose name I forgot, showed up and was like practically invincible or like unkillable. I don't even remember what the resolution was to that, but I had to reset on that map like 4 times. Yeah, that was painful. But aside from that, Path of Radiance was super fun. I'd probably say it's my 4th favorite. So I guess if I were ranking the games, I would say my favorite is Three Houses. This is where I'm going to lose like so much. I'm going to lose any credibility that I never had. My favorite is Three Houses. My second favorite is Awakening. My third favorite is Shadow Dragon. My 4th favorite is Path of Radiance. My 5th favorite is, I guess, Sacred Stones. My 6th favorite would be Fates. And then my least favorite, I'm sorry, but would be FE7. Honestly, I almost want to put Fates above Sacred Stones. I almost want to do that. I guess I won't, though. They're basically tied. I'm sorry. Honestly, I know a lot of people really like the GBA era, and think that's like by far technically the best era for Fire Emblem. I don't care because it's less fun. But you know what? Every Fire Emblem game is good. All of them. There are no bad Fire Emblem games. And I think the reason I really fell in love with Fire Emblem, I guess I'll talk broadly here, but it's unlike any other Nintendo series. You know, I always thought Pokemon would be my favorite Nintendo series for my entire life. I grew up with Pokemon, and Emerald is still like one of my favorite games of all time. Fire Red, Diamond Pearl, Platinum, Moon, Heart Gold, Soul Silver. Like, I just thought Pokemon would forever just be my favorite Nintendo series. I never thought anything would come close. And I just gave Fire Emblem a shot one day. All I did was go in with an open mind. And it has become easily my favorite Nintendo series and easily one of my favorite video game series of all time. Probably my third favorite video game series of all time, only behind Danganronpa and I guess Persona. Even then, it's kind of close to Persona. I still gotta make a video on Persona. But Fire Emblem just oozes with style and personality and charm. There's so many fun, lovable characters. I love the humor a lot of times. I love the aesthetic. I love one thing I love about Fire Emblem is I'm not really huge into medieval time type stuff, but the cool thing about Fire Emblem is like it has its own unique fashion sense to the point where it doesn't really even feel like it's actually like a fantasy sort of medieval time setting. Would you say it's medieval? Would anyone else say it's supposed to be medieval time setting? Maybe I'm being a bit ignorant, but it's got its own unique style and aesthetic, and I love that so much. That's actually something I value so much in a game, is just having its own unique style. The gameplay is just enjoyable to my very core. It's the exact type of gameplay that I love. I love that turn-based strategy stuff so much. I cannot get enough of it. I love being able to recruit like a ton of different units and basically just build whatever team I want. A lot of times I don't even particularly build a good team, if you want to call it a team. I guess I always call it a team. I just literally use the characters I like. I think in my last 3 houses playthrough, I think I was, out of like the 12 characters that you typically get to use or whatever, I think probably like 7 or 8 of them were mages. Well, you could argue that mages in 3 houses are just easily the best units in that game, right? But it just so happens that a lot of my favorite characters are mages. I'd say my favorite classes are probably mages, Pegasus / Wyvern Knights, and like Sword Masters, like Myrmidons or Myrmidons, however you say it. And I guess to a degree, like the singers and dancers are pretty fun. I'm not sure why. If anyone else has this issue, please tell me. But I have never been able to build up like a really strong thief unit. For some reason, thieves just never end up very well for me. I always, like, I'll see like, oh, this map has like 4 chests that I can open. I'll get my like level 2 thief surrounded by all of my other units that are like 15 levels higher than them. That's how it always goes for me. I don't think I've even once had a good thief unit. It's probably my fault for just not paying enough attention to them. Another great thing about Fire Emblem, I mean, everyone probably loves this, but the support conversations. The support conversations, and whether you like it or not, the marriage system is legitimately one of the most enticing parts of the entire series. And that's one big reason I defend the newer games, is because that whole romance aspect of Fire Emblem is just so fun. It adds a whole new element to the game that you can just think way too much about. Let me go through, I think, everyone that I married in each playthrough. So in Awakening, my first Awakening playthrough, like I said, I played as female Robin, and then I married Chrom because I had no idea that there was even a romance option in the game, right? In my second playthrough, which I didn't finish, unfortunately, I married Tharja. In Shadow Dragon, of course, Sheeta is like canon. In 3 houses, my first playthrough, I married Edelgard. My second playthrough, I married, I think, Sothis. I think Sothis. I don't know why I went with Sothis. My third playthrough was Hilda, and my fourth playthrough was Flame. And I would say Hilda and Flame are definitely my two favorite girls in Three Houses for sure. But outside of the romance aspect, like a lot of the support conversations are just legitimately really good. I would recommend like watching some videos about them. One I really liked was I'm gonna reference him again. I've already referenced him on like 3 of my 4 videos, but Fither made a really good video about Sedith. Sedith is a really awesome character who has some really good support conversations, especially with like Felix. And it doesn't really end there. There are so many support conversations. There's so many of them that are so good. I mean, to be fair, there's also some ones that aren't too great. You'll find yourself getting invested in characters that you didn't expect to get invested in at all. You know, I took one glance at Linhardt and didn't particularly want to like him, probably because I just didn't like his hair. But Linhardt's one of my favorite male characters in the series. I love him, mostly because of a lot of his support conversations. And at the end of the day, what's so fun about Fire Emblem is just because of the absurd amount of characters that exist in this series, everyone has their own unique like list of favorites. Obviously, there are the characters that are a bit more popular, like Lynn, Lucina, and Camilla are all like very popular. But everyone has like their own random list of characters that they end up falling in love with. I always love seeing people obsess over random characters that no one else really even cares about or acknowledges. I don't know why that's so fun. Like, there's this one guy I watch. I think his name is... I never remember if it's Nuck or Nuke. It's N-U-C. He's like a Danganronpa YouTuber. And he obsesses over Angie Onaga, who is actually one of the more hated characters in the game. Either no one acknowledges her or people just hate her. And he has built his whole like persona as Angie Yonaga. And Fire Emblem is full of stuff like that because there's just so many characters that you're bound to just obsess over one random character. For me, the most random character that I love to death is definitely Lute from Sacred Stones. Something about Lute and her weirdo like superiority complex was the funniest, cutest thing to me. Maybe it was just the way my brain interpreted her, but I enjoyed her so much. I literally just meeting her felt life-changing. It just clicked with me so instantly. And that happens a lot with Fire Emblem. Something about Fire Emblem just clicks with me instantaneously. And I love the series so much. I love that Intelligent Systems has been so dedicated to this series. I mean, I think us Fire Emblem fans, whoever I'm talking to, if anyone even likes Fire Emblem watching this video, us Fire Emblem fans, I think we should be really appreciative towards Intelligent Systems and Nintendo, because look at all of the other Nintendo series that got bodied, that just got thrown away. Pikmin for the longest time was a screwed over series. Metroid has had its times of struggle. Star Fox may be one of the worst cases, because Star Fox probably hasn't had a good game in a really... I don't even remember what the last good Star Fox game was. To be fair, I haven't really played Star Fox, but people hated Zero. The best thing that come from Star Fox, apparently, from what I've heard, is not even a Star Fox game. It was Starlink Battle for Atlas that featured Star Fox characters. F-Zero just stopped existing. Paper Mario was changed forever. We're never getting a Paper Mario game like the first two ever again, which is particularly depressing to me, considering how much I love the first two. And there are just a bunch of other like random Nintendo properties that have just been thrown away. But I think we should be appreciative, because Fire Emblem is at its strongest right now. Fire Emblem is on a roll. We've been getting Fire Emblem games consistently for a really long time. And, you know, even though I'm new to the games for the most part, I haven't been playing them for like more than like 3 years or something like that. It doesn't look like there's an end for Fire Emblem anytime soon. There almost was. If Awakening flopped, Fire Emblem would be dead right now. But it's not. Awakening did amazing, and we've been cruising ever since. To think after all this time, Fire Emblem has even reached its new highest point. It topped itself technically with Awakening, and then it topped itself again with Fates in terms of sales, and then it topped itself again with Three Houses. It's like this series is on a roll, and I'm enjoying it. I love Fire Emblem to death. It is my favorite Nintendo series. I want to talk about it more on this channel. Maybe some cringy tier list videos. Maybe just talking about my favorite characters from the series. I kind of want to make a full video about why I love Three Houses so much, though that's probably been done to death by other people. Maybe once I play Radiant Dawn and Echoes, I'll talk about those. And yeah, I just want to talk more about Fire Emblem. I have only met one person in my entire life that has ever been a fan of Fire Emblem, and unfortunately, I was not a fan of Fire Emblem at that time, and I really wish I was, because I may literally never meet another Fire Emblem fan for the rest of my life. I guess that's what it means to be niche, right? Even though Fire Emblem sells better than Metroid, right? But nevertheless, if for some reason anybody watches this and you like Fire Emblem, tell me about your favorite games, your favorite characters, how you got into series. Tell me whatever you want. Tell me anything. I'm open. I'm having fun on this channel. I can't wait to have more discussions like this. Long live Fire Emblem, and I hope you have a nice day, night, week, month, year, decade, life. See ya.